The 2022 F1 season has finally come to an end, which means it is time for me to give a final ranking for my top 5 worst drivers of the season. During the mid-season break, I did a video where I ranked the top 5 worst drivers of the season at that time. The question is though, who has moved off of that list and who has moved onto the list? If you enjoy this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now, this season, there's been a couple of drivers who have been standouts for both good and bad performances, but picking the top 5 has actually been harder than I originally imagined it would be. When I did the top 5 for the mid-season, this was who I picked. In 5th place, Yuki Tsunoda. In 4th place, Pierre Gasly. In 3rd place, Daniel Ricciardo. In 2nd place, Lance Stroll. And in 1st place was, of course, Nicholas Latifi. Who has moved since then? Well, let's find out. Also, please down below let me know who is in your top 5 for worst drivers this season. I read and respond to pretty much every single comment, and most importantly, please don't get too upset at my choices. It is literally just my opinion and just a bit of fun. In 5th place, I have gone for Zhou Guanyu. Yep, the Alfa Romeo rookie. Now, this is not to say that the rookie has had a bad season. He was up against Valtteri Bottas, who of course was previously teammates with Lewis Hamilton, so it's no easy task for Zhou Guanyu. And he did perform alright, and there was flashes during this season that he has got great potential. But we cannot deny the fact that there was plenty of performances where he was just too far away from his teammate and off the pace. There was many points where Bottas would make it to Q2 or even Q3, but Zhou Guanyu would struggle and would be out in Q1. There was also races where Zhou Guanyu would simply be quite a long way away from his teammate, and it just seemed like he was struggling at times with the Alfa Romeo car. In qualifying, Bottas outqualified Zhou Guanyu 14-8, and in the races, Bottas beat Zhou 14-7. The best result for Bottas was a P5, whereas for Zhou Guanyu, it was only a P8. In the championship, Bottas finished in 10th with 49 points, whereas Zhou Guanyu finished 18th with only 6 points. Now, I believe the 2023 season for Zhou will be a better season, and I don't think he will finish in my bottom 5 again, but if he does, I fear for his seat, and I fear that he could lose that seat, especially with Audi coming on board as a works team for that team, if he does not show any signs of improvement. In 4th place, I have gone for Mick Schumacher, and I feel like this might be a controversial choice, and I know there's a lot of people, myself included, who actually like Mick Schumacher and wanted Mick Schumacher to really succeed this season. Now, for Mick, he had a bit of an interesting season, because there was a lot of moments where he was actually ahead of his teammate Kevin Magnussen, and for whatever reason, it just would not come off for poor old Mick. If not for that incredible performance in Brazil by Kevin Magnussen scoring pole position and even more incredibly leading 2 laps of the sprint race, I feel like Kevin Magnussen would have been on this list as opposed to Mick Schumacher, because overall, Mick did in a lot of ways perform better than Kevin Magnussen over the stretch of the season, but unfortunately when it did matter, Kevin Magnussen was ahead of Mick. Overall, Mick Schumacher had a fairly forgettable season where he didn't really achieve a great deal of anything. Unfortunately, he did cause a lot of damage, which I think is a big reason why he has lost his seat and why the team turned on him. Now, a lot of that damage happened early on in the season when the Haas was at its most competitive. As the season progressed and Haas slipped further and further back down the field, he did cause less damage, but something just wasn't working for him. In qualifying, he was dominated by his teammate Kevin Magnussen 16-6, but in the races, this is where I was saying, he was actually better than Kevin Magnussen because he beat Kevin Magnussen 14-6, but those 6 times where K-Mag beat Schumacher, they were much more important for the Haas team. And that 6 times where Kevin Magnussen beat Schumacher does not include when K-Mag was taken out early on in Brazil by Daniel Ricciardo. In the standings, Mick Schumacher finished 16th, whereas Kevin Magnussen finished 13th. Kevin Magnussen scored 25 points versus Mick's 12 points. Going forward in 2023, K-Mag for me will be under a lot of pressure to beat Hülkenberg. And if K-Mag has a season like 22, Without the Brazil result, then K-Mag himself will be on this list. For Mick though, I feel like his F1 career has come to an early end. And the reason it came to an end is because he went to the Haas team. If Ferrari placed him in the Alfa Romeo team alongside Kimi Räikkönen in 2021, then I do truly believe that things could have turned out a lot better for Mick Schumacher, and he might very well still be in the sport going into 2023. Now to the top 3, and I feel like these 3 are a bit more predictable versus 4th and 5th place. But before I get into those, I just want to say if you are enjoying the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. It really does help me out, and I really appreciate and love all the support that you guys have been giving me recently. But now on to the 3rd place driver for worst driver of 2022, and I have gone for McLaren's Lando Norris. Nah, I'm only joking. I couldn't have gone for him. I've gone for his teammate though, Daniel Ricciardo. Sadly, the McLaren dream for Ricciardo just did not work out in any form, and he was thoroughly destroyed by Lando Norris this season. 2021 was a bad season for Ricciardo, but at least he had a great result by winning in Monza. This year, however, there was no standout performance. His best performance was arguably in Mexico, and even this came with a penalty due to making a clumsy incident with the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. At the start of the season, he was just slow. By the end of the season though, there was some potential life, but a few silly incidents meant that in the end, it was just another miserable season for the Aussie. In qualifying, he was beaten 19-2 by Lando Norris. In the races, he was a little bit better. He was only beaten 16-5. In the championship though, Ricciardo finished 11th with 37 points, but his teammate Lando Norris was best of the rest by finishing in 7th place with a whopping 122 points. Arguably, if Ricciardo performed anywhere near to the level of Lando Norris this season, McLaren would have easily finished 4th in the Constructors, and Daniel Ricciardo would probably still have a seat for 2023. Now, will he be back for 2024? In all honesty, I still think there's a chance this could happen, and it could happen with him being back home at Red Bull Racing. But hopefully if that does happen, he will have found some motivation and he can be back to the old Daniel Ricciardo that we all know and love, who can perform at an incredibly high level. Now to the top 2 worst drivers of the year, and for the runner-up prize, it has to go to Aston Martin's Lance Stroll. And really, was it ever in doubt? Lance Stroll has actually had a couple of good races this year. His Singapore result was impressive, and his start at Suzuka was one of the best starts to a race all year. However, that doesn't change the fact that the majority of his other races were poor, and he made some terrible and frankly incredibly dangerous decisions out on track. In qualifying at Australia, he swerved into Latifi whilst Latifi was passing him whilst on a fast lap. In Baku he crashed, opted to stay out, and then crashed half a lap later again. In Texas he swerved across Fernando Alonso when he was trying to overtake him, which sent Fernando airborne and was almost an absolutely horrifying crash if not for Alonso when he landed back down. In qualifying, he was beaten by Vettel 13-7, and in the races, he actually only lost to Vettel 10-9. But that being said, Vettel finished tied P11 with Daniel Ricciardo on 37 points, whereas Lance Stroll was 15th and only scored 18 points. With this being Stroll's 6th season in F1, there really is no more excuses for the amount of dangerous incidents that he still manages to find himself in. If his father did not own Aston Martin, I would not be surprised to see him being replaced by another driver along with Seb. But of course, his dad does own the team, so his seat is very much safe. I hope that next year he improves a little bit more on track with Alonso as his teammate. Finally, we come to the man who I've given number 1 spot for the worst driver, and well, it probably doesn't require much of a drum roll and should not come to a surprise to absolutely anybody. But in case you are surprised, the number 1 spot goes to the one, the only, Nicholas Latifi. And what can I say that has not already been said a million times about Latifi? Nicholas Latifi has been the slowest and worst driver this year by a country mile. Absolutely shocking performances, consistently a very long way off of his teammate, on average about 0.7 seconds slower than Albon in qualifying, and lost out in every single qualifying session, except of course the British Grand Prix where Latifi put in an incredible performance to get himself into Q3. In the races he was typically finishing 20 to 30 seconds at minimum behind the next car, and a long way away from absolutely anyone else. In the races against Albon where they both finished, he lost every single time except for one, which was in Spain. He did incredibly manage to score 2 points due to an inspired decision to swap to intermediates immediately at Suzuka, but he did finish last in the championship. Honestly, I don't think we will see Latifi in an F1 seat ever again. He was very fortunate to have gotten 3 seasons, as many better drivers only got 1 or 2 seasons. And what do I mean by that? To put it into perspective, current Formula E champion Stoffel Van Dorn only got 2 full seasons in F1, whereas Latifi somehow managed 3 full seasons in F1, which is in some ways a bit of a crime. Anyways, that's my list. The question is though, who is in your list? Who is your top 5 worst performing drivers for the 2022 season? Let me know down below. I will respond to every single list. And as always, comment, leave a like, and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.